Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel, Art Classes My Way. We are continuing on with this piece, and why don't we see if we can't get him finished on this video. And I have myself a lot of spun wire here, as you can see. If you don't know how to make your own spun wire, feel free to go and see my video on how to do that, one by hand and two with a power tool. I would hate to do this part of the project or anything like this with spun wire all done by hand, because we need a good deal of it. It's not like, you know, like the bigger wire. This is going to end up being a texture piece. And the bigger spun wire, it doesn't take nearly as long, or we don't need nearly as much. We are actually going to wrap with this. So this piece here, where we've come across the front, he goes up and he goes underneath here, and he comes around through here, and he comes up through the back. Nope, that's the wrong one. Actually, okay, the pieces that have these little spirals in them are actually the one that we're going to be using. Now he comes around the back, and I made sure he is nice and tight up against all this here. Bad Cat's going to talk to us. And using my thumb, I'm going to hold him there because I'm pretty happy with how tight he is up in that way. And I'm going to move him around, and I'm going to lift these pearly bits upwards, so that way I can sneak him underneath here. Now, it's been my personal experience, and you could feel differently, and I'm sure there are pieces out there that are an exception to the rule. There always is an exception to the rule. There we go. And he's nice and snug under that. But pretty much when you're doing this heading style of wire weaving, pretty much all blank spaces are filled, or all empty spaces, and especially any empty spaces between wires. So you really want to fill all that, and that's pretty much what's going to be happening with all of these wires here, is they're going to be used to fill in the space between these pearls and this red that we got going on. And we're going to be doing it in decorative ways. So I want a super duper tight curl right up here at the top, because that kind of acts like when you're sewing, you tie a knot in the end of the string to keep it on the side of the fabric that you want it, and that's kind of what the purpose is behind this. Plus it adds a little extra flourish. Now it takes a lot to get that tight. Now that I got him in there, my spun wire from the correct end. Just kind of thread him through and just start wrapping. So this part's pretty darn easy. Be frustrating to undo. So just get our nice little texture going. It makes it look a lot like a bit of rope there. And when you are using your spun wire, especially if you have colored wire like what I am using, it's very work hardened at this point, which I do mention in the spinning video. But with this color wire, like, we could all the way down here at the end, but it's not going to affect the upper areas. Because it's work hardened, this color wire is not going to be very easy to reheat in a flame. If you have a electric oven, you might be able to get it to warm up, but there is still the chance that you could end up discoloring your color. And it's something that you really can't rub off, because you could potentially, they say permanently coated, but this coating can come off. It does come off if you don't take care of it. So right off the bat, if you're making a piece to sell and you've done something like that, one, it's already discolored, you're probably not going to get the color off. If you do get the dark color off, but you leave the green behind, then you've probably made the green so thin, the color so thin on it, that it may, you know, it is going to be a lot easier to get the rest of it right off of there. And this is, it's not that it's bad to use colored wires like this, permanently colored or what have you. Exact same thing happens to plated as well. Plated is a little bit thicker, so it has less potential to be rubbed off and everything, but I've seen it rubbed off. I've seen it eaten away just by the oils and salts in people's skin from sweating and just regular use. So don't think that the colored wire, well, you know, whatever, but I won't use it because the color could potentially rub off. Well, you got that problem in a lot of different things. So don't just, you know, knock it just because of that. Unless it is the color of the wire that you are using silver, you are using gold, copper, a solid piece of nickel, or a big piece of brass, you're going to have the same issues. And you're going to have expensive options. Another thing to keep in mind, because of the work hardening of the spun wire here, is that I am letting, as I am going around, I do not have a death grip on him whatsoever. He is essentially spinning in between my fingers as I'm wrapping him around. Don't get a hold of him real tight and think that it has to be, because then you're going to break him. Because of that work hardening, you're going to have less longevity and less playtime with it. Alright, now I think, yeah, I'll just go ahead and do the whole end. And you do have to worry about the longevity of the wire, because we do still have positioning to still do even after we've wrapped it. I won't take too terribly long, but you know, better safe than sorry. A lot of people don't realize how much they are work hardening their own wire as they're using it, and they think, well, they're using it the same way I'm using it, they're doing nothing different, so why did theirs snap and mine didn't? Well, normally it's because, you know, allowing my wire to spin between my fingers. And you can kind of feel it just a little bit. Being in tuned like that and really trying to feel those kinds of things, that's not nearly as subtle as this, but that's kind of something you develop with wire weaving, is feeling those very slight changes in your wire. Round and round. And feeling how he's getting work hardened, if he's getting work hardened to the point where you really can't play with it anymore. Maybe it's time to end that particular wire and start a new wire. It's all good things. So just keep it in mind when you're playing and you're working around with stuff and you're having a hoot and a half. Sometimes I'll even try to pay attention to when I'm driving in the car. I pretend the car seat is like my horse. And I try to feel out how the road is moving underneath me. It pretty much works out really well. Just for the shits and giggles of it more than anything. A little bit of, neither here nor there, but just anecdotal, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to be entertaining. So I think that should be all the spinning I'm going to do, because I do need this guy to wrap around and grab a hold of something. Again, I don't want a big mess on the back of any of my pieces. I'm going to try to reduce the amount of mess instead of hiding it by having all these god-awful wires and then just spinning one big wire around. I've seen where somebody did that, and I thought their work was absolutely beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful piece. And then I saw the back of her piece, and it's like, oh my God, it looks like a kindergartner tried to do this. Oh, honey. I feel that the back is as important as the front. Not as important, but it is important. So we do have a little bit of color, trying to make it look a little bit nicer back here and make it look like there's some thought behind it, which you can tell that there isn't, but it's a lot better than what most people end up doing. And I'm going to cut this guy, but I'm going to leave myself a good length of tail. And maybe not that much. There we go. I'm going to just move this guy to where it's a little bit more pointy, because we are going to try to go under, I say. And he came up wrapped just a little bit because I wasn't paying attention. Lift up underneath this pearl. Now, kind of got him following this guy a little bit. Whoop. Nope. He's wanting to get up to shenanigans on me here. Let me tighten him a little bit. I am deciding that I kind of don't like what I did in between here that much. So I'm going to try to, on top of that, hide what I did. It was an experiment. And I do believe I said in the last video how I wove it was just playing around and trying new things. And never stop doing that. But if you don't like what you end up doing, very good chance other people are going to realize either one, you were experimenting, or two, oh my God, what happened here? All your work's so beautiful, but what happened to this? And it's noticeable. If you don't like it, the client does notice it to some degree. So I am creating a means in which I can hide what I did. Slink, slink, slink. There we go. Oh, and by the way, welcome all of you from Canada and the UK and Australia. I got a few people in Australia, and that's pretty damn cool. I do love to learn about other cultures and other places. And if you live in Australia, then you would know what you're doing over there. So, all right. Now I'm going to go ahead and end this guy. He's pretty short, so I'm going to end him right there. Now, because this wire ended up in between where I'm going to hook it and there, it's going to work out beautifully. Now, once again, if you are using raw crystal like I am, not all crystals are created equal. keep that in mind because some are going to be softer than others. And some crystals are actually just made out of salt. So you won't even be able to like get them wet because they will start to degrade, and I would not recommend making jewelry out of that kind of a crystal. Now I'm just going to mash it, close, whoop, be back. You can hear that crystal kind of popping under there. Now he's in there nice and tight, so I think that end tail piece is perfection. And I'm going to work on that other one. It's way up here, and try to get him to slide in between that copper and the silver pieces of the pearl weave that I did, which is actually going to be a lot easier than I was anticipating. All right, yeah, man. And now I'm going to put him and kind of just pull him up in between this wire that I just put down and the pearl part, and I'm going to end him right in there. A few cats, you know, I've not had terribly many. I've probably had 4. They've all lived ripe old ages. But this one makes no sense. He's like a combination between a tomcat, which he's neutered. Always spay and neuter your pets. And combination tomcat slash dog. There he goes again. Now I've gotten some more silver wire here to again help fill in certain areas and, you know, just act as filler as well as decorative element. So sticking him through there and getting him in between, pushing down with my thumb or your nail, get him down in between there and start having him kind of follow your curl. If you can keep a hold of that tail, keep him grounded on his butt. Yep, slipped underneath. Got a hold of him there and slipped under again. Pushing down. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. So it's just a little bit of a working thing. Just trying to get him to follow correctly, which he is now. He's loose, obviously, because I need to anchor my tail. But I'm starting to think maybe I should cut this. Where should I anchor you at? I should anchor you right over there. Let's go ahead and do the anchoring right now. Do a little shorter. I'm going to kind of pop that silver wire out right there and start curling. Flatten him in there, and with all the wire that we're probably more than likely going to be adding by the time we're done with this, we can hide him pretty easily. I'm going to hold that down, get this shaped a little bit better. And I'm going to put him in between the wire that I've wove with the beads on it and the wire with all the wrapping. In you go. Now we're going to take our tools here and get that shaped to perfection. Get him to lay down a little better. getting this wire confused with this wire. So maybe we should get him taken care of here real shortly. And get it a little under control. There we go. Now that acted in following our little wire there. It is acting as a filler piece, but it feels like a decorative element that's peeking out from behind. And these are pretty much the part of the whole project that is going to take you the longest, is filling in these holes and spaces and gaps and such. But you don't want to do too much, you know, like just overlaying and weaving in between and things like that. You are going to want to fill some areas. Really make it feel like something came out, make it feel like it's something growing. Because if you just keep wrapping like this, like what I did with this guy, he will end up falling inside of everything when we're done. But you don't want to just keep, you know, doing something like this, because then it ends up being either one like a ribbon where everything's just following it and it's none of it's conforming and none of it feels like it's coming up or trying to push its way through, which feels a lot less organic. And I'm going to come up through here in this gap, filling this in some more. All right. Just pull some of that extra. There we go. Nice and tight. Yeah, this guy's going to end up needing fired, I have a feeling. Now I'm going to take him and I'm going to go around this and try to come up through, because we can still see empty space. Whoop. No, you don't. You don't just get to take off with everything. Lucky that didn't end up scuffing my wire. Be more careful than I'm apparently being this morning. Do as I say, not as I do. Entirely. That is going to be difficult. Probably the better thing here to do, and I'm just explaining my thought process to you guys, and you can decide if you want to do it this way or not, is that I got quite a few curly bits here, and in order to get this to go where I'm wanting it to go, I have to go basically around this wire, come back up through, and then come through the whole area to try to fill it in. Now, I really don't want to come over the top, but let's take a look at how that kind of feels. It doesn't feel too terribly bad. It's following what I've done here already. I can go back through. It does feel like a completely separate piece of wire rather than taking the same wire, wrapping it around and around and around. So maybe that will do just fine. And in you get. I think the bad cat really wants to be on camera. He's just running back and forth in the living room. There we go, and that started filling everything in really nicely, and that allows me to come up this way and come around the back here to mimic what's going on in this part down here, but it's also mimicking this piece of wire here. So that worked out really, really well. Could not have asked for it to have gone better. Now, I'm going to take him and I'm going to stick him in there to end him. I'm just trying to stick my tools in to just poke him. There we go. Poke him around so that way he'll come out. Tighter, there we go. Because I really don't want him to be too up front here. I don't want him to be, you know, feeling like he's following this piece unless I'm looking at it from this angle. Want him to start feeling like he's tucking in, which allows me to then reposition this guy a little bit more, tighten him up in certain places so that way that all ends very nicely, like so. Now he's a little bit loose right now, but not a big deal. And this guy is getting so work hard. Now I'll just go ahead and cut him a little bit shorter because this end is obviously all nickered up. And I'll just tuck him back down. And yeah. And see, he's nice and tight. He's fine. There we go. Maybe even, actually, when we take a little bit more off of that end, so that way he can get a little bit closer and hidden just a tiny bit better. So we're starting to fill in. Now if I really want to make this guy tighter, I'm pushing up, pull over, yep, pull over, there we go. And pushing that direction a little bit, tightened it up, also made the hoop a little bigger. That's fine, don't care. Now, I think we filled in all the little places that we would want to fill in up along the top, minus, you know, going down inside there. Now this piece, he's so short, there's really not a whole lot you can do with him. So I think I'm going to just cut him short and I'm going to tuck him down inside here. But I'm going to go ahead and bring him around to the other side so that way he wraps, just to see if there isn't a little something that can be done with him. Because every little bit is going to help with all this. Well, that ended so nicely. I can barely tell where he went. There he is. I'll just tuck that down, and I'm trying to tuck him down so that way he'll slide just a little bit more underneath this part. Actually, I'm just pushing him down underneath that part. There's not enough left to really slide him very much more. Okay, that worked out well. Made the back look just a little bit nicer. Now, probably going to do what the original idea was with this and come in and fill. But I'm going to, instead of just going straight there, because most of these pieces, when you see this done, this technique or style done, heading, as I've been told it's called, you don't really end up seeing the beads along the sides here. Those get covered up. Most of these things look covered up from this angle, as well as having all the holes filled. So start kind of filling that in by moving all this up, which is too bad because those two wires look beautiful. Oh well. Now, done that. Keep my thumb there so as I'm playing with this end, it doesn't move and get where I don't want it to be. I kind of want him to follow there, but I don't think he's going to, not the way I want him to anyway. So I should probably just take him back down. And I want to take him down. I mean, obviously he can slide around and do whatever he wants because we don't really have him anchored necessarily to anything. Well, we don't, period. Not necessarily. We do not have him anchored to anything at this point. But I want something to feel like all these plant vines are all dipping down into this one area for some reason, whether there's, that's just where the plant is growing out or what, but that is the look I'm going for. And I'm just using my round nose to keep things rounded and flowing feeling rather than putting a potential kink into my piece. He decided to tuck himself a little bit. All right, up you get, up you get. Better. Better. All right. Now, maybe I'll come through here again, and you can see this gap is still here. Maybe I'll just go ahead and slip him on in there once again. And he popped himself out, so gotta pop him back in. Yep, there we go. And start winding him around. I've seen what's gone on. So where I'm having a hard time is he ended up going underneath this part, and probably really shouldn't have him do that. So I'm just going to untangle them real quick. He just does not want to behave, so we'll just put him back the way he was. Undo that, and we'll just come in with another wire and do what I've been sitting here trying to do. I like to try to use up what I have at the time I have it, which isn't always the most conducive means. That's just the way I am. I like staying organized. And my ADD likes for me to stay organized. Or not ADD, my husband's ADD. I'm dyslexic. Dyslexics can have ADD-like tendencies, though. If basically your mind's in disarray and chaos. A lot of dyslexics end up, at least for my kind of dyslexia, I have disophonic dyslexia. But I like having things in order. I like having things in a very particular way, which ends up looking like OCD. And then my husband comes in and just completely dismantles everything with his ADD and adds chaos and utter destruction. And I don't know why his underpants are in the living room, but they are. So when I wake up first thing in the morning, I gotta clean up after him. But I love him to death. He's my one and only. But it does put my dyslexia into quite a bit of disarray. Alright, so with the next piece I do is probably going to, or the next piece I add is going to probably end up anchoring this guy a little bit better to things. But for now, we will just take what we have. Just do a tiny bit more with him because he's not going to let me work with him for too much longer, I can tell you that. I want him to be a little bit nicer looking. There we go. And I think I'm going to put a curl in this area. I'm going to tuck him up a little bit. I think that'll be that, and I'm going to take him around this way. Except a little lower. Come here. he's going to be kind of following, a small part of him is going to be following this green bit here. And his little end's going to get tucked up right there. Just give him a little bit more hook. There we go. So, adding another one. I'm just using these guys to push this wire a little bit more where I want him. There we go. That looks a little better there. Oh, I got a tail. Ah! I did not know you existed. So I want to finish filling in this area. I'm kind of feeling though that I just need to get another size wire to fill that in. Another size wire would be much more malleable and easy to use rather than a bigger wire. So let's, oh god, that's way too small. I'm not filling in with a whole bunch of that. I might be, however, talked into filling in some there. That could be fun. We'll think about it. So I'll go ahead and continue with this larger wire, and I'll probably go get some smaller stuff to just fill in small little hoops and bits in like that. I believe this is probably 26, could even be 20. So I might go 28. I have to get my gauge thing out and find out. Or I can maybe compare. What are you? You are 20 gauge. Yeah, this guy's slightly bigger, so he's probably 22. So I think I'll make him follow that hoop and then come in and fill in here. So where can I anchor him at? That's the question. Anchor right there. So this is part of that hoop that I made up in the front here. I'm going to hook him around there. You know, I think, guys, I have completely misjudged how many episodes this is all going to take. So I apologize for that. It looks like I'm coming up on an hour alone at this particular point in time. Very close to an hour, if not an hour. Let's push. Yeah. See if we can't make you a little smaller. I feel like that's hooked down pretty good. So basically what I was, okay, so we're gonna hook around this curl here. But what I was getting at there was that, yeah, I've completely misjudged how many episodes this is going to be to get done. This is something that you really can't plan really far ahead for. Because just little things pop up that you don't necessarily intend to have pop up on you. All these little holes and little gaps and all these little decisions you're going to have to make as you go. And when you create a project completely from scratch, the way I do, it's not like I'm following a tutorial and then telling you all how to do it. Push that hoop back up because it got pushed down a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now you come back. He doesn't want to follow that right now because so far everything's so unstable when it comes to what I did with this wire coming around and doing the hoop and so on. So until we get that more stable, probably just not going to be able to wrap it the way I want. But I can make him follow right about there, which fills in quite a bit of holes. And then I think I want him to come around here. And we might end up just covering up that little hoop all the way around. So let's try to lift him a little. Up, up, upsy daisy. Thread it back through. Kind of got a happy accident going on here, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. And just getting go down beside a little bit more. Just kind of squeezing and rotating, and because of this tape on here, it's less likely going to mark up as long as I'm careful. Mark my wire up here. So yeah, I'm liking that. That feels nice and organic there. Go with the flow. Maybe even go with the flow a little more? Question mark. Okay, so since I made my hoop a little bit big, and because everything's been moved around, resituated, it didn't go the way I wanted to, he's in a bit of a different position than when he started. So, which allows me to actually make him a whole lot smaller. So I'll just nip off a little bit here of this excess. There we go. And close him up just a wee bit more. Maybe that'll give me a little bit more wiggle room. Yeah, there we go. There. There. Plus that doesn't look too bad on the back either. Did give me any wiggle room. Yes, it did. So I'm going to lay him down back here. Why not follow that again? It worked out so well the first time. Although this time I think we'll just have him go through this great big hole here. And he'll just be a little piece, you know, a little bit of something growing there. Yeah, that looks wonderful. I like it. And then when I come in with a smaller wire to fill in some of these small, or, you know, really small holes, like I could come in with something right in here to fill in, and then come underneath with something to fill in. Because you can kind of see underneath this smaller hoop, you can kind of see where he's coming up. So I want that filled. You want to be able to look at this from basically the front to the sides and feel like it's all been thought out. I'm going to get this, just this part here a little bit tighter. So just kind of flatten him and move him just a little bit. Probably just have you guys flip-flop on the back here. There we go. Yeah, there. That looks a little better. Rather than having them crisscross. Let's see if we can't pull it just a tiny bit tighter. He's not feeling that. All right. Well, let's scooch you. So I'm holding it down with my finger there. And I'm just kind of pushing him around a little bit. Feel a little bit more comfortable with that. Except he ended up getting too tight here. So I'm just going in and just lifting him just a little bit. Tuck you back down and shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. And the shimmying was shimmying was a success. All right. And now where to go? Because that looks pretty awesome sauce to me. Let's try going around just a little bit more there. And then we'll come through here. And we'll start building up what we need for continuing to move downwards. I think I want to make that hoop just a little bit smaller as well. And tighten him up. So I just cut off a little bit and grab a hold of the end and, well, there. That'll make it easier to grab a hold of that end. And tighten, tighten. There we go. It's a much smaller hoop. And there's the end. Now, feeling really organic, don't you think? I'm just using my round nose to kind of move him upwards just a little bit. And I want to give him a little bit more arch going. There we go. Don't want it quite to be too straight. I don't want to straighten everything out like how this is, you know, curves up, then it kind of straightens and then curls back around. I want more of that. I really am liking that. But I don't want to make things too straight, because then that's when things kind of start looking like this a little bit. And it starts looking more like the flying spaghetti monster as opposed to Cthulhu all wrapped around and Art Nouveau-ish. It's one of the things I really like about Cthulhu is the, at least today, nowadays, all the octopuses and things like that are very Art Nouveau, and they feel very organic and they're growing around things. And it feels so natural. I love the Art Nouveau art style. How about you guys? Do you even know what I'm talking about? Would you be interested in history classes? Art history classes, not regular history. I like a variety of subjects and topics, and I like to learn endlessly, which is why the mushroom videos. More for the shits and giggles of it, because I like morel mushrooms, I think. And it's because of morel mushrooms. My husband absolutely hated mushrooms when I met him, and he's a weirdo. He also hates ketchup, he hates mayonnaise, he hates just about every condiment except for hot sauce and barbecue sauce, and he's very picky about his barbecue sauce. It has to be so, well, he's a snob about his barbecue sauce. It has to be vinegar based, not blah blah blah. It's like, just give me something that tastes sweet, delicious, I'm happy. But you know, everybody's different. But it's because of morel mushrooms and me forcing him to eat morel mushrooms back when we were dating that he finally discovered he really likes mushrooms. Now they're in everything, which I can't complain about. Mushrooms, not morels. You only get so many of those a year. It's a special treat. I want this to be more upwards, up in here, to try to start filling in, but it just, everything ends up being too severe or too sharp, going where I don't want it to go, because I want to cover this a little bit more, but I also want it to come out. This is where, you know, sometimes you wish you were Cthulhu or the Flying Spaghetti Monster, either or, and had some extra appendages to help out. Imagine what human beings would be like if we had 8 arms like an octopus. There's an intriguing thought. I am rambling today. That may seem like I'm ADD right now. I got so much stuff I gotta get done today. All I can think about is that, so I'm trying to come up with other stuff to talk about. That came finally around where I wanted it to. But how to come back is the trick. I don't want to add more down here because there's already a bunch of silver going on down here. I'm thinking, what if I wrapped this part and hit it but that would end up being pretty large wrap, as you can see from, you know, all of this. That increased the size of my wire that I'm using by quite a lot. Do I want something that big down there? I do want something green, so I might just wrap with regular wire. And be a great little place to use up all these little snippets that my bag cat, actually my husband's bag cat, decided to chew off of my project. And they also broke. I will admit some of it's my fault, but some of it's his fault. All 3 pieces I have, he did at least the biggest one. I might have done the rest of them. Alright, so things went kind of terribly awry with my recording system, and out of the 2 hours of recording I did, apparently I was talking to myself for almost an hour of it. So I do apologize, got quite a bit further there, but basically you saw what I did for the upper half, and it's a lot more of the same up to this point. We do have some areas to go. Again, I've been recording for 2 hours. I do have quite a bit to still edit down, even though I lost an hour of it. I got an hour and 14 minutes of it. But anyway, but it's pretty much what you ended up missing was I finished these off. I ended up making a green hoop and putting it through one of my previous hoops here. And then I was starting to make a few other pieces, and I decided to dip down through there. Now, and that was a lot of that was just added wire and the like. I'm going to be doing some adjusting so that way these two are a little bit closer together, because I want this and this to kind of mimic each other, so that way it's in more than one place, but there's a good amount of distance between them. And it almost feels like these guys came around, were a part of this, and somehow magically became a part of this here. It feels like it was almost all done with one wire, and you want elements of that in your piece, so that way it makes it really hard for people to figure out how you did it. It adds a little mystery to it. The next part of our video is going to be doing a lot of the same, except we're going to be having a much smaller gauge. Well, not much smaller. Probably 1 or 2 sizes smaller than what I'm currently using, which I do believe is a 22 gauge for 99.9% of all of this, and then the collared wire is 30 gauge. Looking a lot less Christmassy. I'm happy about that. And a lot more organic feeling. I might even put, I'll play with the idea, and when I mean play, I'll probably be thinking about it for 2 or 3 days before I actually do it. We were also at the same time working on covering up, so obviously he didn't get covered at all, but we were working on starting to cover the sides of what we're doing. You need to be up here. He changed on me while I was weaving, apparently. We're starting to work on covering up the sides along that way, filling in these gaps around here. And biggest part that you missed was these 2 wires that had been sticking off to the side for this whole time. I decided to take them, bring them around. I wanted them to pretty much follow each other, and I will work on it to make it look a little bit smoother. So that way it feels like a decorative element rather than just ugly, nasty wires. I might even wrap them to bring some more color around to the side here. And then I took the top one, brought him around, and then brought him around again. I decided that a third one would not be, it would look a little silly if I added a third one, but if I was thinking if I took a smaller gauge, still in silver, and came through here, then that would make it look a little bit better. There would be difference. You know, it's not the same wire 3 times wrapped around. It kind of looked a little silly. I might not now because this guy ended up being here. So, but that got wrapped around 3 times. Then where did I take it after that? Oh, then it became that. Came up, did a curl, came around here. I wanted to go in between this green, this silver here. I needed some more silver to separate that green from that green. and came through the bottom, and he was so nice and tight by the time I was done. All I did was just curl him right there. And you can see I'm pushing on him. I'm putting a fair amount of force into that, and he's not really going anywhere. So it's okay to end your pieces like this with a nice, basically a knot at the end of your threading needle to keep it from going through, because it works just fine. I'll readjust my green here. But from there, we ended him, and then we took this guy, and I decided to mimic these guys a little bit, so that way I had a third hoop. Things happen in threes. 3, not 2, 3. Things happen in threes, and I felt that looked really nice there, so I put that third one there. And then once we did that, we did something else. Oh, he came down through the bottom, and then he started mimicking, and then he pretty much ended there. And then, you know, just grabbing another wire, like I have been with the upper area, whole brand new wire, and just doing a little bit more that you can see. So yeah, I do apologize for you guys not being able to see all of what I did, but thank God I made this an intermediate video and not a beginner's video. So we can see that it's starting to take shape of a piece that's more like what they call a heading technique, or just the style. Starting to take shape a lot more, and we do have quite a bit more work yet to do. I don't know if this is going to be, if the next video is going to be the last video or not. This might end up being longer, but you can see where even though these pieces look gorgeous, it is really hard to get paid accurately for what you just make. Quite a pain. So yeah, please let me know if you'd like me to go over anything. Maybe I'll just do it, like, if you have any questions about what you missed, maybe I'll just do a separate little piece to kind of show you. But a lot of it's just free forming and it telling me what it wanted to do, like what happened with this up here. Happened throughout. You know, if you feel like, hey, this feels nice, pay attention to how you did it and do it again. So yeah, I'm going to shut up. Please like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. Leave me comments in your comments section. I know that June's coming up. June is Hell Week where I live for artists, so it is going to be a little bit before I can get to your comments, but it's awesome to have like a little list of things that you guys want to see, so that way, you know, I have it all ready to go, and I can at least be thinking about it while I'm at shows and things like that. Okay, how am I going to do that, and how am I going to do this for this person? So this is at least going to be another video, and I do hope that you guys are enjoying it. Please let me know. Would you rather me just talk to you guys rather than just playing ambient music, noise? Mostly rain is what I use, and sometimes birds. Always willing to hear what you guys suggestions, and I do hope you all had a wonderful day, and yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out, guys. Bye.